The first message from space arrived during a children's soccer game in Buenos Aires. Nobody noticed at first. The electromagnetic pulse was subtle, designed not to disrupt, but to announce. It whispered through every radio frequency on Earth simultaneously, a mathematical pattern so precise that even automated systems recognized it as deliberate communication. Admiral Torth watched Earth rotate below his fleet with what humans might have called anxiety. His compound eyes reflected thousands of tiny planet images across their crystalline surfaces. The Chitauri commander had overseen 47 first contact missions in his long career. This should have been routine. "All vessels maintain distance," he transmitted to the 200 ships spread across Earth's orbital space. "Broadcast the standard greeting on all detected frequencies." The message went out in 847 human languages, translated by coalition linguists who had spent decades analyzing Earth's radio leakage. The words were carefully chosen, tested on dozens of developing species before. "Attention inhabitants of the third planet. The Galactic Coalition greets you in peace. We require that all warfare cease immediately and all territorial disputes be submitted to neutral arbitration. Prepare to receive diplomatic representatives." On Earth, the message interrupted everything. Television broadcasts cut out mid-sentence. Radio stations went silent, then erupted with the alien transmission. Internet servers crashed under the weight of simultaneous global panic. In military command centers across 6 continents, generals and ministers stared at screens that showed the same impossible truth. The sky was full of ships. Torth's secondary arms twitched with satisfaction. The message was clear. The fleet was visible but not threatening. By all coalition protocols, this was a textbook operation. Humanity would need a few hours to process the shock, then their leaders would respond with either curiosity or caution. Either reaction was manageable. What happened instead made no sense to any species aboard the coalition fleet. In a bunker beneath the Ural Mountains, a Russian general named Dmitry Volkov made a decision based on decades of military training. He had 30 seconds to interpret the alien message before his government could stop him. The words, "Cease all warfare immediately," and "Submit to neutral arbitration," could only mean one thing: surrender or die. If Russia hesitated while other nations surrendered first, they would be destroyed or enslaved. His hand hovered over the launch authorization panel. Simultaneously, in the Pentagon, defense analysts reached a different but equally catastrophic conclusion. The aliens demanded cessation of warfare. America was currently engaged in limited operations in 4 regions. If they stopped while adversaries continued, they would appear weak. The aliens might side with whoever looked strongest. Within minutes, orders went out to accelerate all military operations, to demonstrate strength before negotiations began. In Beijing, in Delhi, in Jerusalem, in Brasilia, military and political leaders faced the same terrible calculation with insufficient information and almost no time. Each made different assumptions. Each acted on incomplete logic. Each feared being the first to show weakness or the last to show strength. Torth noticed the first launch 17 minutes after the greeting message. A projectile rose from somewhere in Central Asia, too large to be a satellite launch, too fast to be civilian. Then another from North America. Then 6 more from various locations. His vessels automatically tracked the trajectories. None were aimed at the coalition fleet. They were aimed at each other. "What are they doing?" demanded Pilot, a young Lumini officer whose crystalline body pulsed with confused colors. "We told them to stop fighting. Why are they fighting more?" "Pull up their communication intercepts," Torth ordered. The translation computers had been recording and analyzing all human transmissions since the fleet arrived. What they showed made his blood run cold. The humans thought the coalition was giving them an ultimatum. They thought cease warfare immediately meant surrender to alien rule. Worse, each human nation suspected the others might surrender first. They were fighting each other to prove their strength to aliens who had no interest in their conflicts. They were fighting each other because they were afraid not to fight. "Broadcast a correction immediately," Torth commanded. Explain that we are not demanding surrender. Clarify our intentions. Admiral, their communication networks are collapsing, reported a Krell technician, his amphibious face drawn with concern. Every government is broadcasting different instructions. Their internet infrastructure is overloaded. Civilian. Populations are panicking. Our new messages cannot reach anyone with authority. On Earth, the cascade was already unstoppable. A border skirmish in Eastern Europe exploded into full warfare as both sides assumed the aliens would reward the winner. A decades-old ceasefire in South Asia collapsed when intelligence services intercepted each other's mobilization orders. Naval forces in 3 oceans engaged each other, each captain believing they were preventing their nation's enemies from gaining alien favor. Old tensions that had simmered for generations found sudden justification. If the aliens were evaluating humanity, then now was the time to settle old scores to secure territory to prove dominance. The logic was insane, but it spread like wildfire through military and political channels. Fight now, negotiate with aliens later. Show strength, not weakness. Trust no one. Torth watched missiles arc across the planet's surface, watched cities light up with explosions, watched military installations exchange fire. This had never happened before. In every previous first contact, species either welcomed the coalition, rejected them, or attacked them directly. Humanity was attacking itself. "Sir, we have to intervene," Pilot said. "We caused this. The standard greeting triggered this response somehow." "The Prime Directive forbids interference in internal conflicts of developing species," Torth replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "We observe, we mediate if asked, but we do not intervene." "They are destroying themselves because of our message," Pilot insisted. Below them, Earth continued its rotation, now marked by dozens of new fires, new conflicts, new casualties. The war that the coalition had accidentally started was spreading faster than any biological virus. And 200 alien ships hung in orbit, paralyzed by their own rules, watching humanity tear itself apart. General Adil Raza stood in the underground command center beneath Islamabad, watching the world burn on dozens of screens. His hand rested on the launch authorization codes that could add Pakistan's nuclear arsenal to the growing catastrophe. Around him, junior officers shouted coordinates and threat assessments. The air smelled like fear and recycled air. "India has launched 6 more conventional strikes on border positions," his second-in-command reported. "They are saying we fired first." "We did not," Raza said quietly, but it did not matter. Someone had fired, multiple someones, and now the entire subcontinent was at war, again. He looked at the image of the alien fleet displayed on the central screen. They had not moved. For 3 hours, as Earth descended into chaos, the aliens had simply waited. No attacks, no demands, nothing but that single message that kept repeating like a broken record. "General, we have authorization to respond to Indian aggression," an officer said. "We must protect our people." Raza knew that voice. Lieutenant Hassan, young and eager, the kind of officer who saw war in simple terms of right and wrong, us and them. Raza had been that officer once, 30 years ago, before he learned that war never stayed simple. "Tell me, Hassan," Raza said, "if the aliens wanted to conquer us, why are they sitting at the edge of our solar system? Why send a message at all?" Hassan blinked. "Sir, they have 300 ships. We have seen their size through our telescopes. Any one of those vessels could destroy our entire defense grid." Raza turned to face his command staff. "But they have not fired, not once. Does that strike any of you as odd?" The room fell silent except for the constant beeping of tactical displays. Finally, Colonel Noor spoke up. She was older than Raza, had seen more wars, survived more close calls. "You think the message was not a threat?" "I think the message was poorly worded," Raza replied. "And I think we are doing exactly what they feared we would do. We are destroying ourselves." Halfway across the world, in a bunker beneath Beijing, Admiral Lin Wei was having a similar realization. She had ordered her forces to defensive positions, but defensive meant different things to different commanders. Some of her subordinates had interpreted defensive as preemptive strikes against potential threats. The situation was spiraling beyond her control. Her aide, a young analyst named Tao, had been reviewing the alien transmission for the past hour. "Admiral, I have something. The linguistic analysis is strange." "Explain," Lin Wei ordered. "The message uses words that translate to cease and dissolve and integrate. But these same words in galactic standard trade languages have different connotations. Cease can mean pause. Dissolve can mean reduce. Integrate can mean join as equals, not submit." Lin Wei leaned forward. "You are saying the translation is wrong." "I am saying the translation could be interpreted multiple ways, and we chose the most threatening interpretation." Tao pulled up comparative analyses. "Look at how they translated these concepts to other coalition species in historical records. They use cooperative language, not domination language." "Where did you get historical records of alien languages?" Tao smiled weakly. "The same transmission that scared everyone included a data packet with coalition history. Most governments ignored it. I did not." Lin Wei stared at the young man. Then she grabbed her secure communication device. "Get me General Raza in Pakistan and the Brazilian defense minister, and anyone else who has not already started launching nuclear weapons." In Antarctica, Rachel had made a decision. She could not stop the war. She could not convince governments to stand down. But she could try to talk to the ones who started this mess. "You want to do what?" Ivan asked, his face pale. "I want to reach the alien fleet," Rachel repeated. "Our emergency shuttle has enough fuel to reach low orbit, maybe enough to get close to their ships." "That is insane," Yuki said, but she was already pulling up the shuttle's specifications on her terminal. "Even if we could launch, even if we survived, what makes you think they would listen to 3 scientists?" "Because we are the only ones not shooting at them or each other," Rachel said. "Because someone has to try." Ivan ran a hand through his gray hair. "The shuttle was designed for orbital debris emergencies. It has maybe 40% chance of successful launch, 20% chance of reaching orbit without burning up." "Better than zero," Rachel said. Yuki met her eyes. "If we do this, we are abandoning the station. There is no return fuel." "The station will be here when we get back, if there is anything to come back to." Rachel pulled up images of burning cities on her screen. "Look at this. Look at what we are doing to ourselves. We are scientists. We are supposed to find solutions." "This is not a scientific problem," Ivan protested. "Then maybe it needs a scientific approach," Rachel shot back. "Observe, hypothesize, test. Right now our hypothesis is that aliens are hostile, but the data does not support that, so we test." Ivan and Yuki looked at each other. A whole conversation passed between them in silence. Finally, Ivan nodded. "We will need to prep the shuttle." "Immediately. Launch window is in 40 minutes if we want optimal trajectory." On board the coalition flagship, Torth was arguing with half the species' representatives in the fleet. The Krell wanted to activate planetary pacification fields. The Lumini wanted to withdraw completely. The insectoid Vreen wanted to study human self-destruction as a cautionary tale. "We cannot just watch them die," Torth said. His voice translator struggled to convey his desperation across so many species. "This is our fault." "It is their choice," Bright River countered. "We offered peace, they chose violence, this is not on us." "We offered submission," growled Old Wave, the ancient Krell philosopher. His voice rumbled through the water-filled section of his communication tank. "We treated them like children to be disciplined, not equals to be respected. This is absolutely on us." "Finally, someone with sense," Torth said. "However," Old Wave continued, "we cannot fix this by imposing more of our will. They must choose to stop. We can only offer them the truth and hope they listen." "They are not listening," Bright River said. "We have been broadcasting clarifications for hours. They ignore us." "Then we need to find someone who will listen," Torth said. An alarm chimed. The sensor officer's stalks waved frantically. Commander, we have a launch from Earth's southern pole. It is a small craft, chemical propulsion, primitive but functional. Torth pulled up the visual. A tiny shuttle, barely larger than a Coalition escape pod, climbed away from the white ice of Antarctica. Its trajectory was shaky, its fuel signature erratic. It had no weapons, no shields. It was held together by what looked like hope and determination. They are transmitting, the communications officer said. It is not a military channel. They are identifying as scientists from an international research station. What do they want? The officer listened, then looked up with something like wonder. They want to talk. They are asking us why we are just watching them die. Torth felt something shift in his chest. Somewhere on that dying planet, 3 individuals had looked at the chaos and decided to fly into space on a machine that might explode at any moment. Not to attack, not to surrender, to talk. Bring them in, Torth ordered. Carefully, and someone find me a way to make them understand we are not their enemy. The shuttle shook violently as it cleared the atmosphere. Rachel gripped her restraints and tried not to think about the million ways this could go wrong. Beside her, Ivan muttered prayers in Russian. Yuki had her eyes closed, breathing slowly. Then they were through, into the black, and ahead of them the alien fleet waited like a city of lights in the void. The docking bay of the Coalition flagship smelled wrong. Rachel's brain tried to process alien scents and gave up, settling on a vague impression of ozone mixed with something organic she had no reference for. The artificial gravity felt too light, making her steps bouncy and uncertain. Beside her, Ivan looked green, fighting the nausea of transitioning from their shuttle's spin gravity to whatever the aliens used. Yuki was the first to speak. We are really here. We are really on an alien ship. Remember, Rachel said quietly, we are here to understand them and to make them understand us. The airlock finished its cycle with a hiss that sounded almost Earth-like. The door opened. Rachel had prepared herself for anything. She had imagined monsters or beings of pure energy or creatures so alien they would break her mind. What she had not expected was the sheer variety. The Chitauri delegation leader stood on 4 legs, his compound eyes reflecting her face back at her 1,000 times. Beside him, a Lumini being seemed to be made of living crystal, light dancing through translucent structures. Behind them, something that looked like a cross between an octopus and a tree swayed in a tank of thick liquid. There were dozens of species in the chamber, and none of them looked remotely similar. Torth took a step forward. His translator rendered his words in English, but Rachel could hear the clicking sounds underneath. I am Admiral Torth. On behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I welcome you, and I apologize. Of all the things Rachel expected, an apology was not one of them. You apologize? Your message started a war. Our message was meant to prevent war, Torth said. His body language was impossible to read, but his voice carried something that sounded like genuine pain. We have watched your broadcasts for years. We saw conflict, violence, weapons. We thought we understood. We were wrong. Ivan stepped forward, his scientist brain overriding his fear. You judged an entire species by our entertainment media and news programs. And by your historical records. Of warfare, Bright River added, her voice like wind chimes. Your species has been in constant conflict since before recorded history. So have most species, Old Wave rumbled from his tank. The difference is most species are not brave enough to broadcast their failures to the stars. Humans put everything out there, their triumphs and their mistakes. We saw only what we feared to see. Yuki had been quiet, but now she spoke. Our planet is burning, millions are dying, what do we do? Torth gestured to a display showing Earth. Red indicators marked conflict zones. There were hundreds of them. We cannot stop your wars by force. Coalition law prevents us from interfering in a developing species' choices, but I want to help. Please tell me how. Rachel thought about the past few hours, about watching her home planet descend into chaos, about the desperate shuttle launch that should have killed them, about General Raz's question that she had seen broadcast on a military channel before they lost signal. Why are they just watching? You need to stop being distant observers, she said. You need to become participants. Every alien in the room seemed to react to that. The Chitauri clicked frantically. The Lumini dimmed. The Krell philosopher went very still in his tank. Explain, Torth said carefully. Right now, Earth thinks you are a unified threat. One enemy, one reason to fight while they can. Rachel pulled up a map on her tablet showing the war's spread. But you are not unified. You are 47 different species, right? From different worlds, different cultures, different philosophies. That is correct, Torth said. Then show us that. Come down to Earth, not as conquerors or peacekeepers, as people. Different groups of you supporting different human factions, not with weapons or threats, just by being there, by talking to us. The chamber erupted in protest. Species Rachel did not even know were present started arguing in languages the translator could not handle fast enough. Bright River's light flashed in patterns that hurt to look at. A serpentine creature coiled and uncoiled in distress. You are asking us to take sides in your conflicts, Bright River said. That is forbidden. We are supposed to be neutral arbiters. Your neutrality is killing us, Ivan said bluntly. You started this fire, you cannot put it out by standing back and watching. He is right, Old Wave said. The ancient Krell's voice cut through the chaos. We came here thinking we could manage first contact with a simple protocol. We were arrogant. We saw humans as a problem to be solved rather than people to be known. Now we must risk ourselves to correct our mistake. Risk ourselves how? Asked a species Rachel had not heard speak yet. Its voice sounded like grinding stone. By descending to their planet unarmed, Old Wave said. By exposing ourselves to potential violence. By trusting that if we show vulnerability, some of them will choose understanding over fear. Some of them will choose violence, Bright River countered. We could lose people. We are already losing them, Torth said quietly. He gestured to Earth. Every second we debate, more humans die because of our mistake. I will go first. Who else has courage? Rachel watched as the aliens fell silent. She realized something profound in that moment. They were afraid. These beings with ships that could cross galaxies, with technology that seemed like magic, they were afraid of her species, afraid of being hurt, afraid of making another mistake. I will go, said a voice, a young Lumini separated from Bright River's cluster. My name translates to pilot. I will go to Earth with you. Others stepped forward, a Chitauri scout, a Krell engineer, a Vreen biologist, not many, maybe 20 from the entire fleet, but it was a start. Where do you want us to land? Torth asked Rachel. She thought about General Raza's broadcast, about Admiral Linway's analysis, about the handful of human leaders who seemed to understand this was all a terrible misunderstanding. I have some ideas, but first you need to understand something about humans. We are not one united species. We are thousands of cultures, hundreds of languages, millions of different perspectives. You cannot fix us with one solution. Then we will try millions of different solutions, Torth said, until we find ones that work. Yuki smiled for the first time since boarding the ship. You really are just people, are not you? Confused, scared people trying your best. Is that not what all intelligent species are? Old Wave asked. The tragedy is that we forgot that when we looked at you. We saw differences and assumed incompatibility. But fear and hope and the desire to protect one's home, these are universal. Rachel activated her communication device. Then let us go home and let us introduce you to some humans who might actually listen. The shuttle ride back would carry more than 3 scientists. It would carry hope, fragile and uncertain, that maybe first contact did not have to end in fire. Behind them, the coalition fleet began preparing landing parties. Ahead of them, Earth still burned. But somewhere in between, people on both sides were choosing to try something impossible. They were choosing to talk. The small alien craft descended through smoke-filled skies over Islamabad. General Raza stood on the roof of a civilian hospital, watching the vessel approach. It was nothing like the warships in orbit. This ship was tiny, unarmed, with its shields deliberately lowered so human sensors could verify it carried no weapons. Around him, soldiers kept their rifles trained on the approaching craft, but Raza had given strict orders. No one fires unless he commands it. "Sir, we should be in the bunker," Colonel Noor said. "If this is a trick." "If this is a trick, a bunker will not save us," Raza replied. "But I do not think it is." The craft landed softly in the hospital's evacuation zone. The side opened. Admiral Torth emerged first, his 4 legs moving carefully on the unfamiliar concrete. Behind him came Pilot, the young Lumini whose crystalline body caught the light of fires burning across the city. They wore no armor, carried no weapons, just translation devices clipped to what might have been their clothing. Raza walked down from the roof, his officers following close behind. He stopped 3 meters from the aliens, close enough to talk, far enough to react if this went wrong. The hospital staff and patients watched from windows, faces pressed against glass. "General Raza," Torth said through his translator, "thank you for not shooting us." "The day is young," Raza replied. Then, seeing Torth's posture shift in what might be alarm, he added, "That was a joke, a very poor one. Welcome to Earth." "We need to tell you the truth," Pilot said. Her voice had a musical quality even through the mechanical translation. "Our message was not meant as a threat. It was an invitation to peace. But we used words that do not translate well. We made assumptions about your species based on incomplete information. We started this war, and we want to help stop it." Noor stepped forward. "Why should we believe you? You could be scouts for an invasion." "We could be," Torth agreed. "But we are not. Look at us, General. We came here without weapons. We landed in a hospital full of injured humans. If we meant harm, this would be very poor strategy." Raza laughed despite himself. The alien had a point. "What do you want?" "To talk," Torth said simply. "To your government, to your military, to anyone who will listen. We want to explain our mistake, and we want to know how to help without making things worse." "Come inside," Raza said. "We can talk where there is less smoke." 3,000 kilometers away, Admiral Lin Wei stood on the deck of an aircraft carrier in the South China Sea. Another alien ship approached, larger than Torth's vessel, but still small by military standards. This one carried a Krell engineer named Stillwater, and several other species Lin Wei had no names for yet. The ship landed on the flight deck. Sailors surrounded it with weapons ready. But when the aliens emerged, Lin Wei saw something that made her lower her sidearm. One of them was carrying what looked like medical equipment. Another had containers marked with symbols her translator identified as emergency supplies. Stillwater moved forward in his mobile water tank. "Admiral Lin Wei, we intercepted your communication to General Raza. We understand you have analyzed our language and realized the translation error. We brought supplies as a gesture of good faith. Medicine, water purification units, food synthesizers, not weapons, just things to help people." Lin Wei studied the Krell carefully. "You want to help us while we are destroying each other." "We want to help you stop destroying each other," Stillwater corrected. "But we understand we cannot force you. We can only offer what we have and hope you choose differently than you have been." A young officer named Tao stepped forward. "I studied your historical records. Your species had wars too, terrible ones. How did you stop?" Stillwater's tank rippled with what might have been sadness. "We nearly destroyed ourselves. Then one day someone chose to talk instead of fight. Then another. Then more. It was not quick. It was not easy. But it was possible. We hope to show you that it is possible for you too." In Brazil, Minister of Defense Carolina Santos met with a marine biologist on the edge of the Amazon rainforest, far from the major conflict zones. The Vreen, who called herself Gentleclaw, explained how her species had once burned their own forests. In resource wars, how they had almost lost everything before learning to cooperate instead of compete. "We see ourselves in you," Gentleclaw said, her mandibles moving in complex patterns. "Not your violence, your potential. Every species that makes it to the stars carries scars from its past. We want you to survive your present so you can have a future." But not everyone welcomed the aliens with curiosity. In North America, militia groups saw the landings as confirmation of their worst fears. Victor Kane, a former military contractor, broadcast a message that went viral across surviving communication networks. They come offering gifts and pretty words. That is how conquerors always begin. They divide us, make us doubt each other, then strike when we are weak. Kane's scarred face filled screens across 3 continents. Do not believe their lies. They started this war. Now they want to control the peace. We must resist. Kane's followers attacked an alien landing site in what used to be Texas. The coalition vessel was unarmed as promised. The 3 aliens inside, including a young Chitauri scientist, activated their emergency shields. The barriers held against small arms fire, but the aliens were trapped. They sent a distress call, not to their fleet, to nearby human military bases. Please, the Chitauri transmitted. We do not want to hurt anyone. We came to help. Please tell them to stop. The nearest base commander, Colonel James Park, made a choice. He sent troops not to capture the aliens, but to protect them. His soldiers formed a barrier between the militia and the alien ship. Kane's followers found themselves facing other humans, not invaders. Stand down, Park ordered. These aliens are under my protection. They are invaders, someone in the militia shouted. They are ambassadors, Park replied. Unarmed ambassadors who asked for help. If we kill them, we prove Kane right. We prove we are too violent to be trusted. Is that who we want to be? The standoff lasted 6 hours. Finally, Kane's followers withdrew. The aliens emerged from their ship, shaken but unharmed. The Chitauri scientist approached Park, his body language conveying gratitude that crossed species lines. Thank you, he said. You did not have to risk your people for us. Yes, I did, Park replied. Because if we cannot protect the helpless, even alien helpless, then what are we? News of the incident spread. 4. Every attack on coalition visitors, there were 3 humans who defended them. For every Kane supporter calling for resistance, there were 5 asking why the aliens had not fought back when fired upon. The narrative was shifting, slowly but perceptibly. In Islamabad, General Raza sat across from Admiral Torth in a room barely large enough for both of them. Between them lay maps, communication logs, and tactical data. Your Colonel Kane is not wrong to be suspicious, Torth said. We have the power to conquer you. Many in the coalition argued for it, but conquest is not peace. We learned that thousands of years ago. Real peace only comes from choice. Then help us choose better, Raza said. He activated a secure channel. On the screen appeared Admiral Linway, Minister Santos, and 16 other military and civilian leaders from around the globe. We are forming a network, people who want to end this war before there is nothing left to save. Can you connect us with your people, not your superiors, your people like Pilot and Stillwater who actually care? Torth's mandibles clicked in what Rachel had told him was the Chitauri equivalent of a smile. Yes, I think we can do that. The war was not over. People were still dying. But for the first time since the aliens arrived, the trajectory had changed. Not from victory or defeat, from listening. 3 weeks after first contact, the planet was still burning, but the fires were smaller. Rachel stood in what used to be a school in Mumbai, now converted into a coordination center where humans and aliens worked side by side. The walls showed impact damage from a bombing 2 days prior. 11 people had died. 3 of them were aliens. The dead aliens were Lumini medical workers who had been helping treat radiation exposure victims from the Pakistani border conflicts. They had not fought back, had not even raised shields. They had simply been there, trying to save lives, when Kane's extremists threw explosives through the windows. Pilot stood beside their memorial, her crystalline body dim with grief. Rachel approached carefully. I am sorry, I know they were your friends. They were my teachers, Pilot said softly. They believed in your species, even after everything. They believed you could choose peace. Some of us are trying, Rachel said. It felt inadequate, hollow. 3 aliens were dead because they believed in humanity's better nature. What did that say about our species? I know, Pilot replied. That is why I am still here. That is why we all are. Across the room, Ivan was coordinating with Stillwater on water purification systems for a refugee camp outside Delhi. Yuki worked with a Vreen engineer to restore damaged power grids in Seoul. In dozens of cities, hundreds of aliens worked alongside thousands of humans, trying to stop the bleeding. But Victor Kane's movement was growing. Every alien casualty he caused became propaganda. "They bleed," his broadcast said. "They die, they are not gods, they are invaders who can be defeated." General Raza watched Kane's latest message on his command screen. Beside him, Torth reviewed casualty reports. Both looked exhausted. The past 3 weeks had aged them years. "He is right about one thing," Torth said. "We are not gods, we are just people, and we can be killed." "Will your coalition abandon us now?" Raza asked. "3 dead, more injured. You came here to help, and we murdered some of you." "Some of you murdered some of us," Torth corrected. "But some of you died protecting us. Colonel Park took a bullet meant for my scout in Texas. That human doctor in Cairo gave her life shielding a Krell engineer from shrapnel. You think we only count our dead? We count yours too." Raza felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. "The network is ready. We have 234 military commanders, 600 civilian leaders, and representatives from 90% of Earth's surviving governments. They are all listening. What do we tell them?" "The truth," Torth said. "That peace is harder than war. That stopping is more difficult than starting, but that we have to try anyway." The global conference took place across every functioning communication network. Thousands of locations, millions of people watching. Admiral Lin Wei spoke first, her words translated into every human language and broadcast simultaneously. "We have been at war for 23 days. In that time, we have lost more people than in the previous 5 years of regional conflicts combined. We started fighting because we were afraid. We continue fighting because we are too proud to stop. This needs to end." Kane's response came within minutes, hacking into the broadcast. "This is surrender. These collaborators want to hand Earth to alien control. I say we die free rather than live as slaves." "No one is asking." "Earth to surrender," Colonel Noor replied. She had lost her son in the Kashmir conflicts 2 weeks prior. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. "We are asking Earth to stop committing suicide." Minister Santos from Brazil spoke next. "The aliens made a mistake, a terrible one. Their message started this war, but they did not fire the missiles. They did not launch the attacks. They did not bomb the cities. We did that. We are doing that. Every day we continue, this is a choice we are making." "Then let them leave," Kane shouted through the hijack channel. "Let them go back to their stars and leave us alone." Torth stepped forward. His image appeared on screens worldwide, a 4-legged alien standing beside human military officers. "If that is what humanity chooses, we will leave. But we will not leave you to destroy yourselves. If we go, we take our technology with us. The medical supplies keeping radiation victims alive, the water purification systems serving refugee camps, the power generators running hospitals, all of it goes." "You would let us die?" someone in the broadcast asked. "You are already dying," Stillwater said, his tank rippling with emotion. "You are killing each other and asking us to watch. We cannot force you to choose peace. But we will not give you tools to make war more comfortable. If you want our help, you have to stop hurting each other. If you want independence, you have it. But understand what that means." The silence that followed was profound. Rachel could feel it through the screens across continents. The moment of choice. Then General Raza spoke. "Pakistan will institute a unilateral ceasefire effective immediately. We invite India to reciprocate. We invite all nations to reciprocate. This war was started by miscommunication. Let us end it with clear communication." Admiral Lin Wei nodded. "China seconds this motion. Ceasefire begins now." One by one, leaders spoke. Brazil, Germany, Nigeria, Japan, South Africa, Indonesia, not all at once. Not perfectly coordinated, but a cascade was building. The same cascade that had started the war was now working in reverse. Kane tried to shout them down, but his voice was lost in the growing chorus of people choosing differently. His followers found themselves increasingly isolated, not arrested, not attacked, simply ignored as the world moved toward something new. But Kane had one final card to play. In a hidden bunker beneath what used to be Arizona, he had gathered loyalists and stolen military hardware. He had an operational submarine with 6 nuclear missiles. He had coordinates for alien landing sites. "If they will not leave by choice," he broadcast to his inner circle, "we will give them a reason to go. We will show Earth what happens when you trust invaders." His target was Mumbai, the school-turned coordination center where humans and aliens worked together, where Rachel and Pilot and dozens of others had become symbols of cooperation, where 3 Lumini had died believing in humanity's potential. Kane planned to make it a crater. The missile launched at 400 hours. It was detected immediately by both human and coalition sensors. 6 minutes to impact, not enough time to evacuate, maybe enough time to intercept. Colonel Park, now coordinating air defense with a Chitauri tactical officer, saw the trajectory and felt his blood freeze. "That is Mumbai, the coordination center. Rachel is there." "We can intercept," the Chitauri said, "but our ships are not supposed to use weapons in Earth's atmosphere, coalition law." "Forget your law," Park shouted. "Stop that missile." The Chitauri officer made a choice. He violated 2,000 years of coalition protocol. He ordered the nearest ship to fire. The defensive beam was precise, calculated. It struck the nuclear missile at its apex, detonating it safely in the upper atmosphere. The EMP burst knocked out electronics across 300 kilometers, but no one died. In Mumbai, Rachel felt the lights go out. Emergency systems kicked in. Then the backup communication systems relayed what had happened. Kane had tried to kill them. The aliens had saved them by breaking their own laws. "Torth," she said into her communicator, "your ship just fired a weapon in our atmosphere. Your rules." "Saving lives is more important than following rules," Torth replied. His voice was calm, but Rachel could hear the tremor underneath. "We will face consequences from the coalition, but you are alive. That matters more." Kane's location was triangulated within an hour, not by aliens, by humans who were tired of his violence. He was arrested by former allies who had decided enough was enough. The submarine crew surrendered without firing another shot. The war did not end that day, but something fundamental had shifted. Humans and aliens had both broken their own rules to save each other. Maybe that was what peace actually looked like. Not perfect, not clean, just people choosing each other over principle when it mattered most. 6 months later, Rachel stood in what used to be a war zone and was now something more complicated. The city had been called different names by different governments during the fighting. Now it was just called neutral ground, the first place on Earth where humans and aliens officially lived together. The buildings were a mixture of human and coalition architecture, functional rather than beautiful. Reconstruction was slow work. Some scars ran too deep to heal quickly, but the work continued. "You look tired," Yuki said, joining her on the observation deck. Below them, human and Krell engineers argued about the best way to restore the water treatment facility. It was the kind of normal argument that would have been impossible 6 months ago. "I am tired," Rachel admitted, "but it is the good kind of tired, the kind that comes from building instead of breaking." Ivan emerged from a meeting room, shaking his head. "The Coalition Council is still arguing about what to do with Admiral Torth and Pilot. Half want them expelled. Half want them given medals, so they do nothing while pretending to do something. Very human approach, actually." They had all changed in 6 months. Rachel had become an unexpected diplomat, translating not just languages but intentions between species. Yuki worked on cultural exchange programs, helping humans and aliens understand each other's customs and avoiding new catastrophes. Ivan had discovered a talent for negotiation, probably from years of managing academic bureaucracies. "How many governments have signed the contact treaty?" Rachel asked. 143, Ivan replied. "Out of 194 total, better than last month, worse than we hoped." The treaty was simple. It acknowledged the coalition's mistake, humanity's overreaction, and both species shared responsibility to prevent future wars. It established embassies, cultural exchanges, and trade agreements. It did not promise utopia. It promised effort. Some nations refused to sign. Victor Kane's Earth United still controlled territory in 17 countries. They attacked coalition facilities when they could, killed humans who worked with aliens, and broadcast messages about resistance and purity. Their support was shrinking, but they were not gone. Kane released another video this morning, Yuki said quietly. He is calling the treaty a surrender document, saying we have betrayed humanity by accepting alien presence. Let him talk, Rachel said. Words only have power if people listen, and fewer listen each day. General Raza approached them, now wearing a new uniform that combined Pakistani military insignia with coalition advisory badges. He had become the de facto coordinator of Earth's military transition, helping armed forces across the globe shift from fighting each other to protecting their populations during reconstruction. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Kane's forces attacked a medical convoy in North Africa. 5 humans dead, 2 Lumini wounded. It is the worst attack in 3 months. What do you need from us? Rachel asked. Restraint, Raza said. The coalition military wants to respond. Some human governments want to respond. But if we hit Kane's positions hard, we make him a martyr. We prove his point that the aliens are conquerors. We need a different approach. They talked for hours, building a strategy that was more social than military. They would increase medical and food aid to regions where Kane had support. They would broadcast testimonials from humans who had been helped by coalition medical teams. They would offer amnesty to Kane's followers who stood down. They would be patient. Patience is expensive, Raza warned. More people may die while we wait for Kane to lose support naturally. More people will die if we create a galactic war instead of ending a planetary one, Rachel countered. We have to think long-term now. Admiral Torth visited that evening. He was technically still under investigation by the Coalition Council, but they kept giving him assignments because no one else wanted the responsibility. He had become the de facto ambassador to Earth through bureaucratic exhaustion. I came to say goodbye, he told them. The Council has decided to rotate command. A new admiral will take over the Earth mission, someone with a cleaner record, someone who followed regulations. Where will you go? Pilot asked. The young Lumini had also become an unexpected fixture on Earth, serving as a liaison between coalition ships and human governments. Court-martial hearings, Torth said. His compound eyes reflected the setting sun in fractal patterns. Possibly prison, definitely. Disgrace, but that is acceptable. I broke rules that needed breaking. I would do it again. Rachel felt anger rising. You saved us. You took responsibility when others hid behind regulations, and they punish you for it. The coalition prizes order over outcomes, Torth said. It is our strength and our weakness, but perhaps that will change. You have taught us that rules must serve people, not the other way around. Someone needed to learn that lesson first. I am honored it was me. They held a ceremony when Torth left Earth. Humans and aliens gathered in neutral ground to acknowledge his service. General Raza gave a speech about courage. Admiral Lin Wei spoke about duty beyond orders. Minister Carolina Santos from Brazil talked about sacrifice. But the moment that mattered most came from a child. A girl from Mumbai, maybe 8 years old, who had been saved by coalition medical teams during the war. She approached Torth and handed him a drawing she had made. It showed humans and aliens holding hands under a sky full of stars. Thank you for coming to Earth, she said in halting English. I am glad you are here. Torth took the drawing carefully in his secondary arms. His compound eyes could not produce tears, but his whole body language conveyed emotion humans recognized. I am glad we came too, he said, even if we came badly. After he left, Rachel, Ivan, and Yuki returned to their work. There were still hospitals to build, treaties to negotiate, misunderstandings to resolve. The work would never be finished. There would always be more to do. But that night, looking at Earth from an observation deck, Rachel felt something she had not felt in months. Hope. Not the desperate hope of survival, but the quiet hope of progress. "Do you think it will work?" Yuki asked. "Long term, do you think humans and aliens can really live together?" "I do not know," Rachel admitted. "But I know we are trying, and that is more than we had 6 months ago." Below them, Earth turned in the darkness, scarred but healing, complicated but hopeful, imperfect but trying. And overhead, 200 alien ships maintained orbit, no longer invaders or saviors, just neighbors learning to share the sky.